Hi everyone, welcome to this week's episode of Happier Active. And this week I spoke to Claire Pritchard, who's a breathwork and somatics coach. It's a really interesting conversation. We had loads of good conversations about kind of managing stress and identifying emotions and ways to incorporate this stuff easily into your make huge changes. So it's the way she works is definitely part of what I like of making these small changes with big impact first to help kickstart what you're doing and give you those tools to kind of manage your day to day better. So I think you're going to really love this conversation, and there's loads of really great stuff in it. She's actually at the end saying she has a new website coming soon, which has actually launched at the end of last week. So it's all there, and her social media is great, and her membership also sounds really great if you want to get started with some of this stuff and you want that help to get going. So I'm really looking forward to you all hearing it. I've been putting up more meditations on my YouTube channel, so there's links to that below. And other than that, I think enjoy the episode, and I'll catch you all next week.
There are many ways to find your path to better health and happiness, and what works is highly individualized. And my philosophy is that most people are more likely to find that if they're active participants in their own journey. So this is a space to start exploring some of the rich and varied areas in which people practice, so you can start thinking about what resonates with you and either discover new practices, so you can either start or deepen your own health practices and journey. And today I have Claire Pritchard, who's a breathwork and somatics coach. So welcome, and why don't you tell us a bit about what you do?
Hello, thanks so much for having me. So I'm a somatic breathwork coach and somatic stress release practitioner. So essentially, my mission is to create a space where it is normal to use these tools to support ourselves. I think when I first started this journey, and I never grew up saying I want to be a breathwork coach when I'm older. I found breathwork, and breathwork helped me, and hence the reason why I do it. There was it's a bit woo-woo, or she's doing some of this stuff, and that was a lot of my ego that was saying that, but those things were being said. And I just want to create a space where it is just completely normal to use these tools, because they're only helping us. They're only allowing us to better manage our stress, to connect deeper with ourselves, to understand ourselves more, and to kind of step away from these expectations that society puts on us, and essentially just come home to ourselves a little bit more. So that is the space that I am creating now, specifically working with millennials, because after many and many of conversations and questions of how were you taught to handle stress, I was just answered with a bit of a blank look on faces saying, I wasn't taught anything. I was like, same. So, and kind of teaching people to process the stuff that we were never taught to process, so that the overwhelm and the jittery feelings in the chest and the anxiety and the rush mentality on the full force in our life, they're things that we can bring our own tools out to support ourselves, and so that those symptoms essentially aren't taking over our lives.
Yeah, I relate so much to this. I've told this story on this before, but I will tell you now how I got into breathwork. Was I was having therapy, and initially the therapist, they asked me to keep like an emotions diary. Couldn't do it. Couldn't name any emotions apart from, happy, bored, sad. And she was like, okay, well, this is not good enough. Have a sheet that I would normally use for children, and go and every time think about which one of these it might be that isn't just sad, because it's more than that. And then when we were doing the trauma therapy, she wanted me to do breath work to, so I wouldn't get upset or panicked. And anyway, I just thought it was so stupid. And eventually was like, oh, well, I'll just try it to... Obviously, that's not going to do anything. And literally within a week, my whole nervous system had and I almost didn't need the trauma therapy because the breath work did so much. But I honestly was just like, oh, she keeps going on about it. I'm going to have to do it just to so we can move on to the thing that's actually going to help, or the pill or whatever.
Yeah. And I think that is kind of like, it's a common thing. Like, I accidentally found it. I thought I was going meditating and it turned out to be breathwork. So I wasn't choosing to go to breathwork either. You know, I was trying to pick something else that I thought would help me forever, trying to improve the wellness. But from everyone that I've done breathwork with, that is the reaction that you get. You know, maybe you come on a bit of a whim, or someone said it'll help me, and you come out and you're like, oh, right, okay, cool. Well, something's just happened in there then, and we will process that. And it is that reaction, because, and I, like, you can answer for yourself there as you were talking about the emotions. I just rang so true with me, because I couldn't feel emotions, but I could analyze them all in my head, and everything was in my head. And actually what we're doing with breathwork is we're getting into the body, and we're turning down that noise, that prefrontal cortex that's like, you can't do that, you've got to be perfect, have you done the shopping? We're actually turning that down. So that is how we're then able to tap into those emotions. Because same as you, I was like, I don't know what you mean, name an emotion. And then I was asked, where do you feel that in your body? And I was like, you've lost me. You've lost me.
That's the really advanced next bit.
Yeah.
What do you mean it's my shoulder that hurts every day? That's got nothing to do with any of this.
Yeah. So that is essentially why we're all doing this stuff, because it is that shoulder that's hurting, and it is those emotions that are trapped in there, and breathwork is how we're able to release them.
Yeah, and I think it's so important, because I'm a health coach, and so a lot of the time I think people come and they're expecting me to say, oh, you need to take this supplement or do this diet, and a lot of the time the beginning is, we need to find a way for you to manage your stress, because literally nothing else that you want to achieve is possible while you're stressed. And for some people, there's loads of different ways you can do it, but nothing else is going to work until you're sleeping better, and you're not sleeping better until you're less stressed. And so number one on the list, we've got to reduce that stress somehow.
Yeah. And I think I've recently just finished this somatic stress course, and it's so interesting, because I think sometimes we try and like think our way out of stress. You know, we'll create another to-do list, or we'll do better time management. And actually it's like, we have to get physical with it. We have to like reduce it. We have to process it. We have to actually get into the body to do those things, rather than just say, okay, well, if I create a 4-step morning routine, my stress will disappear.
Yeah. And adding things in rather than taking things away, which it feels really hard. And I'm sure that I wonder if you'll know more about this, because since you say you work mainly with millennials, but I think we all got brought up a bit feeling like, because of this, all the new technology, that there was a fix for everything that was like external to us, like, oh, now email's the new thing, or this, all these things. And so often when we come, we're looking for like, you're going to give me a pill or a bit of technology that's going to fix it. And actually, because we don't have that inner knowledge, we're looking in the wrong places, basically.
Yeah, so it's kind of like always looking external for the answer. And I think people are then quite surprised when it's like, actually, we just need to go in. But that's scary, because the reason why we haven't gone in before is because, well, I mean, the question is there something that we're avoiding? Is there something that we don't want to feel? And this overthinking, the kind of jittery feelings in the chest, the nervous system when it's heightened, that's all covering up potentially what is underlying underneath. And if you can get to that root cause, if you can get to that, you're then actually able to process it a bit more and actually notice that you have the ability to do that yourself, rather than, like you say, trying to find the next quick fix of, you know, the green powders that are everywhere. And, you know, that's it, all the external things. Like, actually, if we just sit with an emotion for a little minute, that's it, like 90 seconds, then we reduce that hold that it has over us. But like, it's scary when we've avoided and suppressed for minimum 20 years, because that's all we were taught to do.
Yeah. How did you get started in it then?
In the breathwork,
Yeah.
the somatics. So it all kind of started initially. Like my first course was a mindset course. And again, because obviously I lived in my head, I was like, well, I'll just like analyze everything and then I can think my way out of all of this. And then I accidentally went to the meditation class, which turned out to be a breathwork class. And that's then when I realized I had such a profound experience in that breathwork class, because I had actually been in my body for the first time in over 20 years rather than being in my head. But then I've kind of then progressed, and I really took an interest in somatics and stress. And I actually now realize that it didn't start with that mindset course. It started the first time I went to, the only time I went to high school, that transition over. Those first few weeks I was really poorly, and I was in and out of hospital, and my face was so puffed out and a few other things, and they were doing bloods, they were checking over me, and they just could not figure out what it was. I think my parents were quite worried. And it's only now that I look back and I'm like, I was so stressed about going to high school. I was so stressed, but everyone always says, oh, it's so exciting to go to high school. Oh, like you're going to like a big school, and you don't, not that you get taught it, but you're not explained, like actually it can be quite scary and it can be overwhelming. I went from a school that had 2 buildings to one that had 5 buildings and 3 floors in every building, with like 5 or 6 times the amount of people in there. I was one of the oldest at primary school going to one of the youngest. Like that transition is really hard, and I don't think it was ever explained to me in a way that could help me deal with the stress. And then obviously I had no idea that I was stressed. I just thought I was sick. And now looking back, that's probably where it all first started, because that's when I had no idea how to deal with any stress whatsoever. And that was the age of 12 you go to high school?
Yeah, and that's one of those things that I know now. I actually used to work in secondary schools, high schools in the UK, and they now have the year 7s come in early and do like 2 days to start that adjustment, because it's so difficult for them. For that reason, they go from being the oldest kids and like these big, suddenly there's loads of other new children. So even the ones who were like head of the playground or whatever in their last school, suddenly there's 4 other head of the playgrounds coming in or whatever, and then and they've got to learn the new school, and suddenly there's all these huge teenagers and all that. So the schools that I worked in anyway, they do. So I guess some of these things are being changed now, but I wonder if your experience, because it's definitely mine at that age as well, is that if you tried to say you were nervous, it was like, I guess we call it toxic positivity now, but that kind of like, oh no, it's going to be fine, you're going to love it, you're going to like big school, all that stuff, which isn't very helpful. We know now.
Yeah, and like that's everything that I experienced 100%. It was all the positives and the changes, and everything was just going to be a great experience, and nothing was ever, like it might be a bit scary or it might be a bit daunting, and then when that doesn't get spoken about, and I mean I probably wasn't in touch with my body anyway to know that that's how I was feeling, but I wouldn't have had the voice to shout up about it then. I'd have been like, oh well, if it's only me that feels like this, I'm obviously like a baby or a scaredy cat or whatever it is that you would call yourself at the age of 12. And you just push through, and you only have to push through once to start to rewire something, to then learn that that's what you do. And then at the age of 20, 25, when I first did that mindset course, and I was like, okay, something's ringing true here. And then the breath work, and then the somatics, and it all just starts to unfold, and like you just lay in bed at night and you're like, oh yeah, like that makes a lot of sense now, because you're able to just pull these different experiences that maybe you'd blocked out, maybe like you've not wanted to return to, through doing obviously this work quite often. You're pulling those puzzle pieces together now, and you're like, that makes sense, and I can see why high school did this or college, and you're able to then start pulling those puzzle pieces together to be like, I was just scared and stressed, if I'm honest.
Yeah, I've actually been thinking recently a lot about when I started university, And I guess the school I came from, everyone took a year off and I didn't. And so then I went to university feeling like, and I'm very young, I'm a June birthday, so I'm very young for my year anyway. And I went, and so I just felt really young compared to everyone else. And then as it happened, all my flatmates were in their mid to late 20s as well. So it kind of compounded it, where I felt very, very, very young. And actually it's only now, I see on Facebook some of them who I'm not in touch with anyone, because I had a really tough time at university, but I still have some of them on Facebook, and I see they're all turning 40 now, and I'm turning 40 next year. So I'm like, oh, we actually were all kind of the same age. It was all me feeling like such a baby, where maybe some of them were probably only 6 months older than me, actually. But it was all, and because I didn't know how to talk about it or say, I just kind of made my time so much harder for myself.
Yeah, and then it's like that space that then you didn't have, or it wasn't comfortable to speak out in. It wasn't normal to feel like that, and then that just circles back to my why. It's like, well, we need to make that space normal. Then we need to make that space where you can just shout up and say, I feel like this, and we can talk about it, process it, breathe on it, move on it. There's all these different tools now, rather than kind of just you having to push through and not enjoy your uni time, which is then like sad, because uni's meant to be, well, I suppose they say school's the best years of your life and uni's the best years of your life, but
yeah. Well, I definitely was told all the way through school that I hated that uni was going to be great, so I think that probably didn't help that.
Yeah, expectations up here.
Yeah. I mean, it was great. I was living in London and I was away from, all the stuff that I'd hated about living in the countryside. So there were some bonuses, but I definitely didn't. I think if I'd had a year or two to start, but I don't know if I would have done, because it's really taken me till my 30s to start picking all this stuff. And I don't know that I would have been ready in my 20s, really. I was really like, just push it all down even more.
Yeah. And
Party.
I think that's so common now. Like, that's it, obviously. We just drink through it. Like, massively just drink through it. Let's numb it all, have a good time. You seem like you're having the best time, and now you can't handle the hangovers as much. It's like, okay, maybe I'm going to have to start dealing with this now.
Yeah. And it's interesting, because I think I just suddenly started wanting to enjoy stuff more. And then I realised, I don't know about you, but I definitely grew up somewhere where therapy wasn't talked about, or it was like a dirty word, or like if you were going to do it, it had to be for one thing for a very short amount of time, because otherwise, I don't know, not there's something wrong with you, but I think like there was definitely like an attitude of you might become too like self-absorbed if you're doing too much self-reflection, which actually isn't. My experience is that you do all this self-reflection and then you know yourself better, so you can do less of it and then live a fuller life. But I definitely had this idea that if I started, it would, be my whole life would just be like, navel gazing. Or I
think therapy for me, when I was kind of a bit younger, it was a little bit of what you just said there. There had to be something wrong with you to go to therapy, like a mental illness, or had to be something wrong. You couldn't go to have that better self-awareness or understand yourself more, which that would obviously then I'd be like, well, I've not got a mental illness, so I don't need to go to therapy. And actually in the past 2 weeks now, I did therapy loads last year alongside every other modality. In the past, I think maybe 2 weeks, I've had 3 friends message me and be like, so I'm thinking of going to therapy, and I know you've done it, and I'm not too sure. And I'm like, 100%, like, yes, let's get you to therapy, because it's amazing. But it is still, I can hear the hesitancy in the voices of, and it's not necessarily that they think kind of those thoughts about therapy that there has to be something wrong with you. But I do think when you make that decision to first go, it's scary, because you're stepping out of a belief that you've had or a norm by society. And I still think, as much as therapy is so much more accepted in society now, it still can have that what's the word, like, people can still put a bit of a she's going to therapy view on it. When I've
definitely had people be like, why do you need therapy? You're like,
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I mean, part of it is because
How long have you got?
put quite a good face on it, but also like, if you're asking that question, probably have a go.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, it's just, again, I feel like I'm repeating myself, but coming back around to normalizing it.
Yeah, it is. I think it's scary to start, and I wonder. So this is something I've talked to someone else about breathwork with before, because I think having the practices, especially like somatic stuff and breathwork, already in place before you start can be really helpful, especially if you're frightened of it. Because I think one of the hesitancies that a lot of people have is like, oh, but I'm managing quite well with all this stuff pushed down, and if I open this box, I don't know if I'm going to be able to like close it again, or if it's going to totally derail my life. And so having these kind of core practices that you know can help you at least get to a baseline can be so powerful, because you go in knowing like, well, I know now how to get myself calm.
Yes, and this is such an interesting one for me, because I do think like it's not kind of like opening Pandora's box, but you are opening a box for like growth and change. Like if you're starting therapy, you're not going to be the same person. Like you are going to change and you're going to grow. And that is messy. That is up, that is down, that is round and round in the roller coasters. But it's just having that trust in yourself that you can make it through. And I was on a breathwork retreat August last year, and I actually thought it was a level up of one of my qualifications. I was like, I'm going to come back and I'm going to be such a better practitioner. I'm going to be able to guide people so much more. But essentially what we did is we went deep on ourselves. And there's just one memory that takes me back. I was all just crying after this breathwork session, like, why are we doing this work? Oh my God, it was so much easier to just drink on the weekends and you didn't have to deal with anything. But then 2 days later, we were like, oh God, I feel so good. And it's like you have to sit in that hectic, uncomfortable, sometimes sad, sometimes angry, sometimes amazing, excited feelings that come with breathwork to get out the other side. And I think it is then, yes, having all those tools that you can use during the day to bring yourself back round, to not let that spiral that potentially would have taken you off to take you off, like 3 deep breaths and it's like, okay, actually I'm back in my body, or a little dance around the room and again you're back in the body. Because yeah, it's a messy journey, and every time I think about how messy it can be, I'm like, but what's worse, the messy journey where I am the happiest, like most me version, or me where I was just so stagnant and there was no growth and there was no change. And actually give me the emotional releases and the ups and downs to be the version that I am now, rather than that version of me that essentially was just like scared. Like she was scared all the time of what the feelings would do, what would come up, what it would be. And actually it's been nothing but, I mean, profound is quite a big word, but like I wouldn't be who I am right now doing this podcast if I hadn't started with the therapy, with the mindset, with however it is that anyone starts to get me to here. And I'm like, I guess that's part of the journey.
Yeah. Well, and I think as well, because I think people sometimes think they're going to go and do this stuff and it's going to be like then they're going to be fixed and never have a bad day. But what I found is that it gives you better resilience. So the bad days, like, or when difficult things happen, it doesn't knock you as much, or you now know like, oh, last time things were really difficult, this worked. And so you don't have the week of trying to figure out what's going to work. You can just get straight to the thing. And so it helps you with like a toolkit for dealing with tough stuff better. And when you've dealt with some of the previous tough stuff, you're not necessarily bringing all of that previous tough stuff to the current tough stuff, which slows down getting back to feeling a bit better.
Yeah. And I think that is that toolkit of being able to use whatever it is in those tough times. And I think as well as that toolkit, you're then banking evidence on all the tough times that you've been through to be like, okay, well, I've been through those tough times. I've used these tools. I've come out the other end. And that as a combination is saying, okay, well, if I can do it then I can do it again. And yeah, that resilience increases and you find more tools and you have more belief in yourself and you slowly just work your way through with a lot more confidence, knowing that like you can pick these tools up whenever, wherever. I think that's what I love about breathwork is anywhere that you are, anytime, you can do a certain style of breathwork and that will then support you through whatever it is that it needs to. And it will take you back and be like, well, I've done this before. I'm banking the evidence, and that will just push you forward. It navigates you forward into like the good times that are then to come.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. Last week I had like a pretty rough week, kind of a lot of things going wrong at once. And it's the kind of week when previously it probably would have taken me like a month to recover because I just wouldn't have slept afterwards. I'd have been so stressed and annoyed, and I'm already fine. Like I was just like, oh, what a terrible week. But I now know I have the things I need. Like, right, every evening I'm just going to go for a walk to like get some of that stress out, do some breathing. And it's really interesting how much and how quickly some of these things have helped me just accept when stuff is difficult and not hold on to it for days and weeks afterwards.
Yeah, and that is the thing, like not holding on to it, like not internalizing it and making it all about you. It's like, okay, we can push through this. So is breathwork one of your go-to main tools?
Yeah, I'm getting better at it. I was saying to someone recently, one of the things that sometimes I don't notice I've started doing it, like my body kind of knows now. So sometimes before I've noticed that I'm getting anxious, my breathing will slow down because my body knows that that's helpful now, which is quite good. And I do try and do some breath work every day because I've got ADHD and I get heated quite quickly as a result. I'm quite, big spikes, and it definitely helps keep me on a more even plane because it gives me that pause before I react, which is a real personal struggle.
God bless that pause.
But it's definitely something I'm trying to incorporate more. I just did a Reiki course, and there's a lot of breath work in that. It's funny, like I was trying to explain it to someone and I kind of say Reiki is basically like really intense meditation with energy work, and so there's a lot of breath work in that to concentrate on what's happening in your body. And I found that really helpful, like the combination of being really in your body but using your breath to feel what's happening while you're doing it.
Yeah. Oh, I've never kind of thought of the combination of the breathwork and the Reiki there. I'm intrigued.
So I don't have a very good visual. So like in a lot of meditation, they say like, oh, picture this, and I can't do that. So I really use my breath to like feel meditation in my body because I can't visualize.
No, love that, because I literally was having a conversation this morning and I was like, honestly, my brain just goes on to the to-do list sometimes in meditations because I do struggle to visualize.
Oh, that's interesting. So that's how I got into somatic stuff, because I can't visualize. So when I meditate, I find it really hard, and I found that if I like hold myself and rock while I try and meditate, I don't get distracted in the same way. I cannot just sit still and meditate. Got to be moving.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I'm going to try that one. I like that.
Well, so how I actually, basically in January, I wanted to try and meditate every day, and I'm so bad at it. So I asked on the internet, like, what do people do when they're bad at it to try and do it? And that was one of the suggestions. And I tried loads of things that people suggested, and that was the one that I liked the best because it's the closest to sitting and sort of doing it properly in inverted commas, but it also keeps you in your body without me doing my to-do list in my head.
Yeah, because that sway is somatically that's really comforting for the body, so it's kind of like we're comforting it whilst we're then meditating at the same time.
Yeah, and it's quite rhythmic, so it's not, you don't have to concentrate on it once you're going.
because I find when I'm guiding breathwork sessions online, I'll be on Zoom and I can see myself, and I'll just be in it, and then I'll be looking at myself and I am just swaying like this, and I'm like, oh, she's gone. But like, again, like you said, the body, your breath will naturally slow down. I am just naturally doing that and I don't even realize. So
yeah, that's so interesting. What do you do? So this is something I've asked a couple of people because I'm really interested in it. I often work with people with really severe stress, and if I try and talk to them about breath work at the beginning, they often say they can't do it because it makes them panic. So when you have people like that, what do you suggest for them to like get into it?
So I think I would explain a bit of the nervous system first, because that panic is so normal if you're someone who's very stressed and like quite highly active, and just explaining that panic is just the body not used to slowing down, and then literally just taking it really slow. I think a really good one to go with first of all is the humming breath. Where you hum on the exhale, because you kind of have that concentration and you can feel that vibration through the body. But also maybe not going straight into breath work, maybe doing a bit of I can never say that word, orientation, using our eyes to look around the room and grounding ourselves through our senses, because that then takes away the attention from being inside the body and puts it externally. So I think if someone was very stressed and wanting to do kind of breath work, I'd maybe guide them a little bit more round to that side of it. But this new course that I've just done, which is specifically on stress, that is a really interesting way to let the client guide themselves through and try and tap back into what it is that their body wants them to do. So the breath work could be part of it at the end of the like restoration, but maybe actually what that body wants to do is just like jump up and down and release some of that adrenaline from the body, or the cortisol, what's pumping around. Sometimes screaming, big fan of screaming, if I can get anyone to be screaming. And actually just allowing the client to follow that impulse, because what we've done is we don't know how to react to that impulse anymore because we've suppressed it so much. So actually it's, if we can get them to get back in contact with what that impulse is that they want to do, maybe like throwing a pillow on the floor or different things like that, they're then actually like releasing some of the stress, and then we can go into that restoration afterwards of maybe slowing down the breath, because once they've released some of whatever it is in the body, the activation, the breath work might not seem as panicky then to them.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Yeah, because I think sometimes something that I see a lot online, and I'm sure you do, but it is a lot of this like breathwork stuff where I think it's actually quite advanced and people are trying to start at a point where a lot of people are probably years into practicing it, and so then it probably is activating all that panic stuff, not doing what it's supposed to be doing.
Yeah, like doing the complete opposite. And essentially the whole aim of all these different tools is to find safety in that nervous system. And if we can find that safety through using all these different tools in smaller amounts, that will be less overwhelming to then kind of go in with like a big breath. It's like asking someone who's never trained for a marathon to just nip out and run a marathon, will you? Let me know how you get on. Like, that's so intense on the body. But if you ask them to walk for 5 minutes, that would be so much more obviously safer in the body and the toenails. So I'd say kind of like slow it down a little bit and take those little sips rather than jumping in, because I think we do, like you say, like when you see it on the internet, people aren't showing the time, the first time they did it and the hard times and the years that they've built up to these amazing practices. We're just seeing the end result, and that makes you think, oh well, I'll just start off with this hour-long class, and actually it's just far too much. And that's one of the things that I always will say, for a long time, I was only doing 10 minutes of breath work in my car. If you scroll down my Instagram, it's just me in the car doing 5 or 10 minutes because one, it was all I had time for. And two, like the reality is we don't always have an hour in terms of time or capability to go through these huge sessions.
Yeah, and I think that's probably what I like about breathwork over and above all of these practices, is that you can do it while you're doing something else, like while you're driving or while you're... So if you feel too busy, it's quite an easy thing to slot in anytime you're doing... You can do it while you're doing other stuff, so you don't have to necessarily, to start with, make special time.
Yeah, whilst the kettle boils, whilst you're sat on the toilet, like all these brushing your teeth, like it's finding those little nuggets of time. That's how we start to bring it in. Because like if you'd have told me when I first started that I needed to sit down and do 60 minutes, not a chance. I couldn't. Like my body would have been like, no way, not a chance.
Yeah, and I found like to start with, and I think now I'm doing this Reiki thing, like I think it's similar. Like it's supposed to be 20 minutes to 30 minutes a day, but I actually just find it so overwhelming that I've got to start with 5 minutes and slowly build up, because even though I'm much, I think a year ago I wouldn't have been able to do any of it, and now, but like 5 or 10 minutes is about the max, and then you kind of build up. It's quite
and
intense.
I think that is the reality for so many people. Like we're not kind of the odd ones out here thinking, oh, we only had to start on 5 minutes. Like that is so normal. Like when you start anything new, it's so normal, and it's normalizing that it's normal, isn't it? And giving people permission to just do 2 or 3, 5 minutes and to start build it up. And like I have a membership and I'm like, don't breathe every day. Like don't feel like you have to breathe every day when you first start, because that is just going to completely overwhelm you. Like breathe 3 times a week. And that is a consistent habit, and that is better than striving for perfection and feeling like you failed when you've missed the day because you've got life to do.
Yeah, and that comes back. It's something I talk about loads in all areas of kind of health stuff, is like all or nothing mindset is so unhelpful. And I think, again, go back to the kind of millennial thing, because of the kind of diet culture we all grew up in, there's a lot of that kind of thinking, and it translates to every part of our lives. And it's much better to do something 3 times a week and not go into a shame spiral if you miss a day, than to do it every day for a month and then stop forever.
Yeah. Which I like as you say, diet culture, I'm like, oh my God, it just takes me back to like, I'll start the diet again on Monday and then I'm off by Wednesday, but it's fine because I'll start again on Monday. And that is just, that's everything that you were exposed to growing up, wasn't it? In the magazines and the weight pictures and everything. So you can see how it will then just be very visible in all different areas of life.
Yeah, it's funny. I was talking to a nutritionist on this a while ago, and she said, the thing is, when people come to me, is that I say like all diets work, but it's finding the one that works for you. And for most people, that isn't going to be one of the ones that you can follow in a book, because it's about what you like to eat and what you like to cook and how you like to. So it's not really, all of them work for someone, but the reason that you've ended up coming to me is because you've either not found the one that works, or you need a lifestyle change, not a fixed diet.
Yeah. And I think it comes back to that like language again, doesn't it? Like the fix, like there's like, and we've said it already, like, will breath work fix you? Will this fix you? And actually it's like, well, do we need to be fixed, or do we just need to find something that works for us? Like I've got friends who are like, breath work doesn't work for me, but EFT is my go-to. I love EFT. And I can do 1 or 2 sessions of EFT and I'll be like, I'm going to go back to breath work. And that's what it is. It's finding the modalities that work for you, because there's so many out there. Yeah. But that you're not going to be great at all of them, and they're not all going to give you the results that you want. But find that one that works for you, and that's it, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, that is literally my whole... It's just connecting people with things that work for them, and like the right people, because you can... I talk about this all the time, but you could meet 3 people who are breathwork coaches, and for whatever reason, you've all had the same training. For whatever reason, they really like you and feel comfortable to do the difficult bit with you and not with someone else, or vice versa, because it is about finding the things that work for you and the people who can help you do them, that you have that vibe with, because like you say, you went to that retreat and you were all crying. Like, you've actually got to be quite comfortable with the people to be able to do that, and it's vulnerable.
Yeah. And I do think it's like you can, what's that phrase I was talking about today? You can be told something like 20 times and you'll not listen until you're ready to hear it. Mm-hmm. And that's literally that, isn't it? Like, you can have all these different teachers telling you the stuff, but it, like, exactly like you say, it'll be the right person at the right time when you're ready, and you'll be like, oh really? Never heard that before.
My therapist, it was so funny, it's the first time I've ever had, when people normally they're quite good at keeping their professional, but anyway, I'd been at a thing and with my uncle, and he'd said something, and I said to her, oh, my uncle said this thing and it was really like clicked. And she was like, I have literally said that to you like 5 times. It's like, oh, sorry.
You weren't the right person to tell me.
Yeah. But it is funny, it is amazing how that, and then I was like, oh yeah, you have, sorry, yeah, it's just
Yeah, I've read a book, well, I've tried to read a book like 10 times and I would never get past chapter 1, and I'm like, everyone is like, this is the best book ever, and then at Christmas I was away and I read it and I was like, wow, that was profound. Like, why have I not read this over the past 5 years? I wasn't ready.
No. And timing is so important, because you've got to be in the right space, because like you say, when you said earlier, like, growth is messy, and so you've got to be ready in the right brain space for the mess of that particular bit of growth for it to work.
Exactly.
So with your membership, what kind of stuff have you got in there?
So my membership is a fully online breathwork membership. So I do a few different styles of breathwork. So the nervous system regulation style, the somatic release, so that deeper style where we're kind of going more in and releasing from the body. And then I have pre-recorded audios that people can listen to whenever they want. And so you can access the 2 live calls a month. You've got the pre-recorded audios at all time. And essentially it is just for that busy person who doesn't have the time to commit to all these big, massive changes. It's the membership where you can breathe 3 times a week, and there's audios from 3 minutes to 10 minutes. And it was just about making it simple to bring into your life if you're new to breathwork or you want that consistent modality. So yeah, that's it. It's so simple. Like I can't even talk about it for hours because I just wanted it to be simple. I just wanted to be able to make breathwork the tool.
Yeah. And I can imagine that's the kind of thing then, if you're like on your commute or whatever, on the bus or the train or in the car, you can just pop it on and fit it into whatever.
Yeah, you can just press play wherever you are, and that is the beauty of it.
Which is half the battle, finding the time.
You can't find the time, you've got to make the time.
I'm really interested in the course you were saying about with somatics and stress, because I do think, so something I get people to do a lot is walking, because it's that combination of like, and outside walking, and it's that combination of being in nature, so you're kind of looking at stuff, and moving, so you can kind of get out of your head. What other things are good for that kind of
for specifically for stress?
Yeah, and kind of with the movement and especially the like body stress.
So the way that I work is that we kind of go into a session and we create the activation in the body so that you can feel that stress response happening, and then we work through it then. Really, so not necessarily kind of like going out walking and breath work are those things that you can do all the time to help keep you more regulated. This is to help you process through any stressful situations that may actually be causing you stress. And I think like stress isn't always bad as well. That is, I think, one of the things, like good stress also creates that stress response in the body. So you want to be able to work with that, because if you're going to get told that you're going to get a pay rise, that's going to create that stress response in the body, but we're not going to turn that away. We don't want to be reducing that. We want to be able to deal with it, or getting proposed to, like your wedding day, like that is all such good stress. So it's being able to work through that good stress as well as the distress, essentially. Don't want to say bad stress, but yeah, that distress that then can keep those stress hormones pumping around the body that then actually lead to the diseases that happens when we don't process it. So yeah, it's more kind of in a session rather than that regulation.
Yeah,
tools.
That's really interesting. And then when people start doing that, does that mean they're then able to identify better for themselves, like, oh, maybe this bad back I've got is actually a stress rather than a because I bent over funny?
Essentially that. Yeah. I had someone come to a session and she's like, I'm actually not really that stressed. I'm not too sure if I need to do this session. And I was like, okay, let's just like kind of work through our body. And then it was the lower back pain. And then we moved that through the body. And then, oh, actually, no, maybe I have been a bit stressed. And, you know, what does that back pain want to do? And she was like, I've been go to a chiropractor for a year, and 30-minute session with you has helped move that stress through. And it is trying to recognize those things in the body that potentially are stress, and trying to learn the language of our body again. So that jittery feeling in our chest, like, what is it trying to say? Like, what is it from? What is creating that in the body? Those sensations. And it can be a bit of a process because so often we're maybe not connected with the body. So you can't feel those sensations in the body. And it's like, well, I don't feel anything. And it's like, well, what can we do to try and connect with those sensations a little bit more? Because when you've been suppressing for 20 years, you're not going to just get that sensation straight through. So it's a lot of reconnecting with that body and noticing those things in the body as to what they are, what they mean, what are they trying to tell you, that hidden language, essentially.
Yeah. And that is, it's such a hard, it's funny because we have all these phrases that we use that are like, we don't really think what they are, but, you know, like, oh, I had a gut feeling, or, you know, as in my head about it, all these kind of phrases that talk about those sensations, but we don't really think about what they mean in terms of like our body telling us something.
Yeah. And then when you actually think about it, you're like, oh, of course, like, that makes sense, but they're just phrases to us now that we don't actually know what they mean. It's like learning a different language. Like funny saying about Newcastle team when they won the cup, and one of their players came on and he was swearing quite a lot, and they were like, you can't swear on here. And he was like, okay. And he took the microphone again and sung a chant, and he was swearing, but English wasn't his first language. So he was just saying a phrase. He didn't know he was swearing. And this is it. Like, we're just saying phrases. We don't actually know what those phrases mean until we tap into it. And we're like, oh, our gut is very important in our, and that then you start to like pin everything together, don't you?
Yeah. And it's so funny because like trust your gut is something you hear people say all the time, and often they don't, because they'll come in and they're having all these, you know, digestive issues. And then you're like, well, that is your gut trying to tell you something.
Yeah, that's the nervous system, the gut. It's, the amount of people, they're like, what? So like IBS could be due to stress. And I'm like, it can. It's like, what?
It now might have become a medical issue because it's been going on so long, but the root of it might well...
It's chronic stress now, isn't it? Yeah. It's not just that short-term stress with Escape the Tiger back in the day. It's that looming chronic stress that means we're just in that heightened stress state all the time.
Yeah, and like you said, like, it's knowing that, because your body doesn't know the difference between, like you say, the adrenaline because you've got to do some public speaking that you've chosen to do, or being chased by a tiger. But you do, and how you then interpret that stress is a lot to do with it as well. Because, you know, like going on a roller coaster is exciting, but it is actually the same nervous system response as the distress. But because your brain knows it's something exciting, it's interpreting it differently.
Yeah. And it's then like that then shows the power of that mind-body connection, because it's like, okay, well, the body's doing this. We can then work with the mind to be like, this is actually excitement rather than fear. And that's when that mind-body recalibration is, again, where the magic happens. It's not necessarily just the mindset work or just the body and the breath and the somatics. It's when we bring those together, that's when real magic happens.
This has been really, really interesting, and I've really enjoyed talking to you. If people want to join your membership, work with you, what is the best way for them to do that?
So grab me on social media. So I am CP Wellness Coach. And I'm just getting a website made at the moment, so that will have all the links to my one-to-one program, which is that mind and body recalibration, processing the shit we were never taught to process. And then I've got the membership on there, which is bringing breathwork into your life nice and easily, to support yourself day to day. I do corporate wellness, I do guest expert sessions, so you can find everything. And just send me a message on my social media, because I am always happy to have a chat with people. I do actually really enjoy having those connections and those conversations. So find me on socials and chat to me.
Amazing. Thank you so much.